I have an arrangement with one of my previous guests, Jacqueline van den Ende, to make this podcast irrelevant or obsolete in 10 years. And if you would give me advice as a mentor, what
Yeah.
would you recommend I do to speed this up?
Well, firstly, I don't think you have to be a developer to be in tech. So, be curious.
Yeah.
Technology is all around us. It's in everything we do. Whether it's this really extremely advanced smartphone, smart homes, fitness wearables, all these things around us, that is really, making, adding to life. So, when you think about being in tech, one way or another, everyone is connected to tech. And as a woman in tech, I think it's really important to be a role model. Think about how you talk about your career and find ways to make it relevant, make those relevant links to those you speak to who might also be curious about having a career in tech. I think being a role model is critical. So I think that's a really important point. But definitely to be curious, ask the question, and make connections. If you speak to someone who's curious about a role in technology or wants to learn more, dig into your network and see who you can connect them with.
Welkom bij Women Disrupting Tech. Mijn naam is Dirk-Jan Hupkes en in deze podcast ga ik op ontdekkingsreis in de wereld van vrouwen in de technologiesector. Ik ga in gesprek met vrouwen die in tech werken of oprichter zijn van een tech-startup. Ik ga op zoek naar het antwoord op de vraag hoe zij er wel in geslaagd zijn om succes te hebben. Met andere woorden, hoe zij de technologiesector disrupten. Luister je mee? How do you use technology to ignite people's passion and drive? And how do you persuade investors to fund that technology? In today's episode of Women Disrupting Tech, you'll get the answers to these questions from co-founder and CEO of StellarUp, Estelle Roux Stevens. StellarUp is a mentoring and community platform that enables organizations to scale their mentoring efforts by helping them facilitate mentoring relationships from start to finish. So far, they've onboarded organizations like InvestNL, Rijksdienst voor Ondernemend Nederland, and the United Nations Foundation. Estelle recently also secured $500,000 of funding for StellarUp. So we thought that would be a great opportunity to discuss her experiences during the fundraising process. In addition, we'll discuss the importance of mentoring and how to use technology to facilitate this, and we'll find out how a diverse team has helped StellarUp get to the stage that they're at. So please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Estelle Roux Stevens. So welcome, Estelle. Good to have you. A question I always ask at the start is how you got into your current job or into your current position.
Hey, Dirk-Jan, really great to be here. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Wow. How did I get into my current job? I can tell you one thing is very certain, that being the CEO of a tech startup is not something I had planned when I started my career. My background is in HR. I've spent the last 20 odd years working with a number of different startups and scale-ups. And I started my career within the banking space, specifically because my dad was a banker. He was the CFO for a company, and I did my internship at the bank. So after I graduated, I moved home. I left South Africa. I moved to the UK, and I did a number of temping jobs, as you do when you arrive. But I started working for big energy giant Enron, which I think all of us may or may know some of. But after I left Enron, I had to really reinvent myself a little bit and reinvent that chapter in my life and see what it is I really wanted to do with my career. And I got a really wonderful job as an HR manager working for a banking consultancy, which was really the first glimpse I got within the tech space. It was
Mm-hmm.
fintech at that point. I was working for finance, banking. So you can say I sort of really fell into tech. Um, I'm a real techie by heart. I love technology. I have lots of tech elements in my life.
Uh-huh.
But I think the real misconception that most people have is that when you say you work in tech, that you should be a developer and you can write really, really good code.
Uh-huh.
But that's in actual fact not really the case. I learned a huge amount about technology, consultancy, startups, and so forth during my time in the kind of fintech space. My last corporate job was working for as the head of people work for a cloud consultancy firm in London.
Mm-hmm.
I worked very closely with the two co-founders of this firm to help them grow and scale their business to one of the largest cloud consultancy globally.
Mm-hmm.
And as an HR person, I was always really drawn towards the talent development, employee engagement, the culture aspects of the role.
Uh-huh.
And then building mentoring and learning programs within companies, something that I've absolutely loved doing. So, being a techie, like as I said, I've always looked for ways to, you know, use technology in my role as an
Mm-hmm.
HR professional to help, you know, us do things better, smarter, more efficient, etc.
Did you get a
So
lot of pushback on that?
I did. Well, people often find change difficult, right? So,
Uh-huh.
if we're doing the same thing, in a certain way, and then all of a sudden bringing in a new piece of tech or a new process or something, there is an element of pushback on
Uh-huh.
that. And I think the thing that I found quite challenging was, when I was looking for tech specifically to help with a mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
I got quite a lot of pushback on that because mentoring is often seen as, sort of organic and, people just kind of bump into each other serendipitously and having a chat at the coffee machine. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
this mentoring relationship's up. But, then sitting around the boardroom table and going, you know what, we have this great mentoring program. It really, really works and everyone loves it. Um, then saying, well, why? How can I prove that? Looking for that return on investment piece
Uh-huh.
is really, really challenging. So I was looking for tech specifically to help me scale, manage, and build our mentoring program, but with so that I can have
Uh-huh.
a much more data-driven conversation when it comes to mentoring being a very effective talent development and learning tool within an organization.
Is that important to let's say managers, that it's also data driven, or that you can actually prove with data points that it's effective?
Uh, yeah, definitely. And wow, there's absolutely. And even looking back now at the customers that we work with,
Uh-huh.
for them, the analytics and the data element is such a big topic, right? Because people are investing their time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And time is, as we know, the one commodity, the most expensive commodity, but it's something you don't get back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
investing that
Yeah.
time as a mentor, you want to know that the mentee is really getting the best out of this and they're really learning. And, you want to feel like you're contributing and adding to someone's life and their career. As a manager, you want to also know that this time investment is one that's worthwhile for the organization, specifically if you're going to be doing this many times or build something or
Mm-hmm.
build a strategy around that within the organization. So absolutely. And this is something that I really struggled to find early on. I couldn't find a solution. Yeah, there's mentoring products out there and they help with the connecting people. And that's a different topic, but then really using the analytics and getting the reporting off the back of that conversation was super, super important for me as a HR professional.
Yeah. So just take a step back. Why is mentoring important in developing talents?
Wow. Okay. So, with a good mentor by your side, you get the opportunity to really deep dive into specific areas and challenges that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's relevant, right? So a mentor, can bring real life insights, challenges,
Mm-hmm.
real life examples of situations that you may be going through at that point. With a really good mentor, you can really structure the conversations to make it absolutely relevant to the situation that you are going through at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, we've built some really great mentoring programs for our customers. So we've firsthand seen the impact that it can make on a mentee's life, whether they're a student or a more experienced professional, reverse mentoring, etc. All these wonderful ways of connecting people and sharing knowledge. It really helps accelerate personal and professional growth.
So, does it also, for instance, increase the chances of promotion? Or
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, right? Because there's you get mentoring, you get coaching, you get sponsoring, and all these various different things, and promotion is absolutely an option or a potential path
mm-hmm.
or result from a mentoring relationship. But it really helps the individual, the mentee, to really think about the journey that they're currently on
Mm-hmm.
and ask relevant questions to help them potentially with promotion or a career change or something that they're struggling with at that point.
Yeah. Uh, because I read something that about 1 in 5 women in tech have a mentor. That sounds quite low. Where is the payoff? Seems, well, at least quite appealing to me.
Yes,
Maybe.
exactly. And I would highly encourage every woman to have a mentor. And I talk about this not only to my friends and my family, but also to my children. My daughter is 10 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and she's doing a coding course. She's been coding for the last 2 years, and she's got a wonderful trainer, teacher who we've gotten really close with, very fond of her, and we got to know her really, really well over this time. And even with her, we talk about mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
At her school, they talk about having a teacher and a mentor. So it's super important for them to also understand the concept of mentoring and why it's interesting and relevant.
Yeah. So and for organizations, how important is it to have a mentoring program in place?
For organizations, I think every organization should have a mentoring program in place. It's and often you find that they have programs in place, but it's just like a tick box exercise or something. We have a
Mm-hmm.
program;
Yeah.
people can just join if they want. But I think having a good program in place, that there's a strategy around that, there's a thought put, there's a real plan put in place.
Mm-hmm.
There's training, so mentors are trained, mentees are trained in things like effective communication skills, negotiating, asking questions, listening skills, really, really important. So for an organization to implement a mentoring program, that's only one element, but to really think about how they're going to roll it out, what training they're going to provide, what are they trying to achieve, and the goal setting, for instance, within programs. These are all really important points for organization to consider when building a mentoring program, and not just having it as an open, flexible, we have a program, we encourage mentoring, therefore go find yourself a mentor.
Yeah. Have fun.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Okay. Done. Next file.
Next. Exactly.
Um, and how does technology play a role in that? I understand the data part of it,
Yeah.
because if you have technology in place, you can start measuring data points, or at least you can
Yeah.
do that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But is there other ways, like for instance, the rollout in the goal setting,
Yeah.
that technology can help?
Many different ways. I might be a little bit biased when I say you need a mentoring platform. I think that's really, really key. It helps with the rollout. It helps with the building the program, and then for managing and scaling your program. So with technology, it really enhances the mentorship's reach and the effectiveness and also the convenience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not only are you helping the mentors and the mentees, but you're also getting this wonderful, rich analytics piece off the back of that. So really thinking about growth and development when you build the program. So with a tool such as our product, you have the opportunity to build multiple different programs, so you can tailor every single program you have within your organization to something that's specific and useful for the goals that you're trying to achieve within your mentoring program, where be it a program specifically for people going through a particular learning program, or be it a program specifically for women returning to work after maternity or time off, etc.
Uh-huh.
But you can really, with technology, help with the rollout and the effectiveness of that. There's things like mentor-mentee matching, so you can use technology also to help with algorithms around matching relevant skills,
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds, and things like that. So, yeah, if you ask me, then absolutely, I think technology plays a huge part in this, and it would really help you with that effectiveness and scale.
Okay. So let's go back a bit into the answer to your first question, because you explained that you have a background in HR and you've been also working for a scale up.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that grow. I think you were employee number 20 or so when you came in.
Yep.
Uh, then it was still small. And
Yeah.
how do you translate that experience into the building of your StellarUp solution?
Sure. I learned so much during that time, um, and it's not just uh, in terms of building teams and working with the co-founders, on building their people strategy and helping them grow their organization. But over time you learn also, other valuable things around building, setting up a business.
Mm-hmm.
I help them open offices in over 18 locations globally. So,
Uh-huh.
the cultural aspect is massive, hiring people in various different countries, different languages, different rules and regulations, and so forth. So the also building a business and scaling a business internationally was
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing learning opportunity for me. You also learn through other people's mistakes. You learn through other people's achievements. So
Uh-huh.
there's a ton of hugely valuable experience that I pulled from my time in that role specifically, that I could then translate not only into my current role at StellarUp, but also throughout my consultancy period prior to setting up StellarUp.
Mm-hmm. Did
And
they
it was lots
also?
of fun.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine that. Did they also?
Every day was different.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're a bit smaller, let's say, as an
Yeah,
organization, you're growing fast.
yeah,
Then need to be able to work in a dynamic environment, let's say.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And did they also did you learn specific things about fundraising, for instance, that you can apply?
Ooh, well, I think the what I learned about fundraising in that role was not the actual fundraising part, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't specifically involved in the fundraising piece, but I was much more involved in once the funds were committed, or
Mm-hmm.
in that due diligence process with
Yeah.
investors, in terms of kind of that process. I was much more involved then. So the
Mm-hmm.
fundraising piece I really learned on the job at
Okay.
StellarUp. So this is something that I had very little exposure to prior to building my own startup. So it was very much a learn on the job type of situation when it came to fundraising. And
Okay.
it's hard, right? Because you connect with people, everyone's got an opinion, everyone's an expert in the space, and
Uh-huh.
everyone's got something to say. But
Uh-huh.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I'm the one sitting in front of an investor and being grilled and asked 1,000 questions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that is not something that anyone else can prepare you for,
No.
really.
Did you do the in terms of logistics? Did you do the pitching? Because you have a co-founder, your husband.
Yeah, my husband. Yeah,
Did you do the pitching together, or did he do one and then you do the other? How did that work?
we no, we did. I did the pitching. Um, most of the pitching I did. He came into various conversations, but generally the first conversation, I was on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely helped with with the preparation of the pitch deck and
Mm-hmm.
practicing and of everything else. But the most of the time, the first pitch, I was on my own,
Okay.
and that's also a challenge, right? Because then I because I'm not the person who built the product, so
Mm-hmm.
then already the investor is looking at me with a different set of eyeballs, and very
Mm-hmm.
often one of the very first things is like, well, can we speak to the person who's actually responsible for tech next time? It's like, well, okay, do you want to know about the business?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have that
That's
conversation too. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. But you recently managed to raise $500,000 from an investor. So
Yes.
congratulations on that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
that's quite an achievement because from what I hear, female founders have an even harder time raising money than men. And I
Yeah.
was wondering about your experience with that.
Uh, well, I think building a business is hard as it is, right?
Uh
And
huh.
there's lots of books and lots of great you know pieces of information that you can gather, but you know standing in those shoes at the end of the day, it's still you still I'm still the one at the end of the day who has to do that.
Hmm.
So it was, I think fundraising was probably one of the hardest things I have ever done, to be
Okay.
honest with you. It's an extremely complex landscape to navigate. uh, you know uh, Joining various different pitching events and accelerated, I don't know, event, mentor meet startups and investor meetings, things like that. It's very, it's very complex.
Yeah.
And investors, you can prepare really, really well for these conversations, but at the end of the day, um, it's up to the investor in terms of what they want to focus on and the bits
Yeah.
that's really important to them. So
So
yeah,
how did you find the right investor? Did you let's say make a profile up front like he has to at least to do these things or say or not say the following?
yeah. Um, we had an idea of the kind of investor that we wanted. We wanted someone
Mm-hmm.
who's involved enough for us to be able to bounce ideas off them and to have them be part of the conversation and have them be a part of big conversation. But we also want someone who fully trusts us and who understands our business enough,
Mm-hmm.
and well enough to also let us get on with running the business from a day-to-day point of view. So
Yeah.
we had a idea, we had a persona, we had the type of investor that we were looking for. Of course, you have profiles in all these various different places, and you connect with investors in various in different meetings and settings, and all these great events that are everywhere. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, the chemistry and the chemistry between the startup and the investor is a really, really important one, and that has to be absolutely spot on. And I
Yeah.
would recommend anyone who's fundraising to treat it a little bit like a job interview. When you're also looking for an investor, to make sure that when you speak to an investor, that you're also prepared with questions, and you're also prepared with asking them what they're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
and what's their goals, and what's their how involved they want to be, and what's important to them.
Mm-hmm. Um, you mentioned earlier that hey, you are a couple as a
Yeah,
CEO and or as founders.
yeah.
Sorry, um, and did that add any or distract in terms of pitching?
Uh, yes. definitely we were certainly challenged with the fact that we're a husband and wife team. In many ways, we also, just to a certain extent, we've changed our surnames on LinkedIn, so we have separate surnames.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely helped with the conversation. However, we're yeah, I don't know. It was just it's a very difficult conversation, right? Because you read these things, and people who give you guidance and advice and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
are often the pushback is, oh, but you're a couple, or you're husband and wife. Investors don't like husband and wife teams. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge for us.
Yeah.
But we like to turn that challenge into a strength. So for us, we come together in this business with very different background, with very different skills.
Mm-hmm.
And where we overlap, that's where it really matters, right? Because we have a shared vision, we have a shared passion,
Yeah.
and we have shared goals. But because of our backgrounds and our different skill sets, we bring so much more to the table as a team than often you find in founders who don't know each other, and who started a business coming from two wildly different places.
Yeah.
So we try to turn that into a positive, and I think our investor also sees that as a positive for them. It was absolutely
Okay. Yeah, that I was about
a
to
non
ask.
topic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a non it was a non topic, and yeah, I think that also gave us a lot of comfort and enthusiasm about where we are right now and also our future.
Did you also look for an investor who could be, let's say, sort of a mentor to you?
Absolutely, and yeah, for sure. And um, the investor that we have is someone that we've known before, and in a previous life, he was a mentor to me. He may not have known that at that point,
Mm-hmm.
but he definitely um, was a mentor to me, and someone that I've always hugely admired and looked up to. So for us, it's a really great match. Not only just for who we are as a business and our product, but also for us as a co-founding team.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a very good match indeed. Um, Going back to the pitching a bit, but now for clients, was that experience different from finding an investor, or did you also get the same type of pushback?
No, not really. It was very different, to be honest. I think our customers, well, I know our customers enjoy the fact that that we are who we are as a co-founding team.
Mm-hmm.
We get really good feedback on that. Uh, we get feedback around our, our passion and our drive and our enthusiasm for the product and the solution and what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from that point of view, where our customers really, yeah, we have very good feedback on that. So it was a very
Okay.
different, yeah,
So
situation.
has it been how has it been to find clients? Because for an investor, there's a certain process. Like you go
Yeah,
to networking meetings, you have accelerators, incubators, what have you.
yeah.
Uh, how did you go about finding customers? Was that cold calling or
No.
using your network?
Yeah, we found that the most successful strategy around customer acquisition has really been networking.
Uh huh.
Most of our customers have come through referrals, and we're setting up a proper referral program now to also give back to our customers
Mm-hmm.
in a more structured way.
Yeah.
But networking, whenever I speak at an event or go to on a podcast or something like that, then um, often there's something that, a customer that comes through that channel.
Mm-hmm.
We've done some cold reach outs. They're not that effective. We're building our social media strategy right now, so looking at customer acquisition from, how do we use social media from that point
Mm-hmm.
of view, Google Analytics and all that kind of stuff. But the most successful strategy we've had to date has been referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can.
we've done some events. I'm not a big fan of these big conferences. You end up spending a lot of money for very little return. So
Yeah,
trying to be
that's.
a little bit more creative
Mm-hmm.
is what we're doing. In,
Yeah,
uh,
I heard
yeah.
that many times now that these conferences don't. Yeah, it's sometimes it's a necessary evil, but it's not something that you want to spend a lot of money on.
Yeah, the return on the investment on that is just so little when you're a startup, because you
Mm-hmm.
really have to invest a lot of money into really standing out between the masses, especially when you're in the like the startup pavilion where there's hundreds of other startups and you
Yeah,
all have these like little meter square
yeah.
booth.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's hugely frustrating. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and finding
Very
the
little
right
return.
events.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because if there's a startup pavilion, it's usually that there is at least some sort of link with startups. But
Yeah.
there's also a lot of conferences that I know that don't particularly cater to startups. And if you have a booth
No.
there, yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a bit about diversity because you have quite a diverse team
Mm-hmm.
surrounded around you. How has that helped you to achieve your goals so far? So getting funding, getting clients, getting the platform up and running.
Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, we're a diverse founding team.
Hmm. Yeah.
But then also within our team, we have lots of amazing, diversity within our team. And for us, it's just the range of perspectives, right? The range of experiences that people bring to the
Hmm.
table. Everyone's come from a different background, different. They've taken a different route into their career. So I think for us, it just brings that additional perspective on a problem or a challenge or something that
Hmm.
we're working on. And as a team, we work extremely well together. We've got, our daily stand-ups. We have we have our town halls and things like that. And everyone has the opportunity to contribute.
Hmm.
Everyone's got a voice, and everyone has a seat around the table. And as a result, we come up with really creative solutions, and we can think outside the box on topics, and it's generally a fun, interesting conversation.
Has it
So yeah.
also helped you in terms of let's say finding solutions to let's say problems with the platform, so really technical stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We've got yeah, for sure. Some of our developers have come straight out of a boot camp.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So they bring a different set of experience. Some of our developers are more experienced in their careers, so they bring again a different element, a different conversation to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our developers have also gone through a real transition. So they started off in a different, completely different background, different skill, and then retrained as a developer.
Ah.
So it definitely makes a really big difference for us. And as a result, we can jump on challenges pretty quickly, and you don't need a lot of time between being presented with a problem or a challenge from a customer or something that you think, okay, right, let's put our heads together.
Yeah.
How can we solve this? So yeah, it also brings that time right down.
Okay, so it's also time saver. Just
Exactly. Yeah,
shortens
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
the problem solving time.
it does. Yeah,
Okay. I have an arrangement with one of my previous guests, Jacqueline van den Ende, to make this podcast irrelevant or obsolete in 10 years. And if you would give me advice as a mentor, what
yeah.
would you recommend I do to speed this up?
Well, firstly, I don't think you have to be a developer to be in tech. So, be curious.
Yeah.
Technology is all around us. It's in everything we do. Whether it's this really extremely advanced smartphone, smart homes, fitness wearables, all these things around us, that is really, making, adding to life. So, when you think about being in tech, one way or another, everyone is connected to tech. And as a woman in tech, I think it's really important to be a role model. Think about how you talk about your career and find ways to make it relevant, make those relevant links to those you
Hmm.
speak to who might also be curious about having a career in tech. I think being a role model is critical. So I think that's a really important point. But definitely to be curious, ask a question, um, and make connections.
Hmm.
If you speak to someone who's curious about a role in technology or wants to learn more, dig into your network and see who you can connect them with
Is
to
that
make that link.
Yeah? Is that also a question that you can use as a conversation starter in on events? Let's say if you or even in a company, if you especially in larger companies, like I worked for Nationale Nederlanden,
Mm-hmm.
and there, although there I have to say that there were much more women already in the tech department than or in the IT department, I should say, than with most other companies.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was never a question that was asked. Hey, do you have ambitions to have a role in as a woman in tech? Is that something that companies, especially larger organizations that you work with, should be asking as part of, let's say, the general appraisal process?
Well, yeah, that, and also, what do you think it means to work in tech?
Yeah,
Right? Because, like I said, you don't have to be a developer to work in tech.
yeah.
You don't have to be able to write good, clean code and or be a project manager or an architect. There are other ways that you can uh, work in tech. In my last role, I built an incredibly um, high achieving talent acquisition team. And every single one of my talent acquisition team members, they absolutely have a career and a good, wonderful job within tech, whether they're hiring for an office manager or they're hiring a senior developer or project manager or a salesperson.
Hmm.
They will have this element of the conversation that is focused around technology. What does it mean for you to work with technology, in technology? What does technology mean to you, and how does it add and contribute to your life? So yeah, definitely worth a conversation, I think,
Okay,
and a conversation starter.
good. Well, thanks very much for this conversation. Last question I always ask is where can listeners find more about you and in about your company, about StellarUp, and where can they follow you on social media?
Okay, well, LinkedIn is a great place. So, find me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
uh, Estelle Roux, and then also StellarUp.io.
Okay,
So our website, StellarUp.io, would be a good place. We're on social. So there's, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and all these fun places. But yeah,
okay. Any open
please do reach
position?
out.
Any open
Um,
positions?
yes, we are. We we're always looking at developers. So, interesting developers who come along with the Ruby on Rails background would be great. And, we're looking for someone within the operations space at the moment. So someone who really has a hand on scaling B2B SaaS as an head of operations or operations manager.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll put the links in the show notes, also the links
Thank you.
To the open positions page.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for this wonderful conversation, Estelle. Really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you in the next episode of Women Disrupting Tech. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. And Estelle and I hope that you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. You can connect with Estelle and StellarUp via the links in the show notes of this episode, and you can find those at womendisruptingtech.blog. There you can also become a member of the Women Disrupting Tech community, so you are the first to learn when new episodes go on air. If you want to hear more episodes of Women Disrupting Tech, please follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And if you do, please don't forget to give the show a rating or a review, because that's the way you help other people find this podcast. If you want to make your own contribution to more diversity in tech, please share this podcast with friends, family, and coworkers, because that way you give my guests the platform they need to make this podcast obsolete in 10 years from now. Finally, if you want to connect with me, you can do that via the website or via LinkedIn. Just look up my name and you'll find me. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode.